All right, there you go.
There we go. Hello! It's been like Austin, how long has it been since we last streamed?
Uh, months,
Yeah,
like
it's
Halloween.
been it's yeah, it's been since last Halloween, so it's been I'm bad at math.
I met my
It's been a
computer.
while. Um uh
Same.
since since
Like
our
5 months.
Halloween special, our lives have changed. I've gotten married. It didn't actually happen, but it's cool to say it. Uh, um, but we are here with a whole new campaign and a whole new two players.
Oh,
Would you two introduce yourselves, please?
I am Jeremy.
hmm.
Uh, so what do you need to
Welcome to the
know?
party, Jeremy.
Like, do I introduce my character or just me?
No, no, yeah, we're just
Oh,
introducing
yeah.
ourselves so
Let's
everyone
just
can tell like what voice goes to what character,
yeah.
essentially.
They'll sort of introduce their
Oh yeah,
character when we kind of
I'm
play.
Jeremy.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi everybody. I'm Amanda.
I was.
That's that's my husband over there, Jeremy's husband.
Yay!
Now cut each other's butts off if you want to live.
I mean, you don't need to say that. I'm
Well,
pretty
it is a.
sure.
I was just say that is a great weight loss program, but one I don't suggest.
Yeah.
Fill up the portcullis with your own butt meat. That's what we're D&Ding tonight. Saw. Uh, I should
Oh
actually
my
do a Saw
gosh.
campaign sometime.
That was just so scary.
Sad.
I
I've
don't know if that.
watched all of that in
Like
like one night before. It was not a good idea.
uh,
I honestly may keep that in mind for a future Halloween special.
well, yeah.
No.
Question is, will we ever return to SCP? You.
That's a good question. I'll have to ask the other players about that. Anyway, uh, if the three also apologies for the slight echo, but it's not too big of a recurring problem, so we should be okay. Um, anyways, are
There's
the
no
three of
echo.
Well, there's a little bit because
I
y'all are
have
right
an
next to
echo.
each other,
mhm.
but it's whatever.
All right, so are the three
That
of you
echo.
Don't
are
talk
the three
loud
of you
enough,
ready?
basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're ready.
Yeah.
We've been ready. I've
Yeah.
been hearing it of skipping.
All
Literal
right.
skipping.
Amanda and Jeremy, are you?
I am so ready.
Very ready.
All right. Welcome, adventurers, to the land of Yav, a land that is and has been for most of recorded history caught in political turmoil and strife. Several years ago, the divided land was besieged by colonists from the faraway kingdom of Barbarous. This foreign house and their lands quashed all resistance with overwhelming military might and an unparalleled bloodthirst and cruelty. The political rivals of Yav, putting aside the generations of distaste and animosity, banded together against this common enemy and emerged victorious after a long and bloody siege. While some of the barbarous colonies' influence and lands remain, their might has been significantly lessened, and thus the status quo returned. New kingdoms rose where old ones fell, and the original member factions of the alliance that quashed the barbarous army have established a tentative peace in the land for a time. The Emporian capital city of Balefire rises proudly from the Sierra Mountain peaks, overlooking the lands with an ever watchful eye. The Geogran stratocracy and the Kingdom of Wicket act as enforcers to this peace, with a mostly unspoken threat of force to any dissenters, while Curtail and Aegis maintain the peace diplomatically. But life goes on. Empires rise and fall, their people live and die, and the wheels keep turning. Much like the wheels of the Tishan Express, the railway that makes the run through the eponymous Tishan Valley, the lush green plains that connect the kingdoms dotting the western edge of the continent, delivering passengers and cargo between the kingdoms. The train is used to carrying important loads, but the one adorning it today may be the most important. Our story begins in the caboose of the Tishan Express. Jeremy, would you please describe your character and what you're doing?
So my character, he usually doesn't really have much of a shirt on. He likes to show off his muscles, but he's got these nice silk black trousers and fine decorative boots. His hair is pulled back into like this. fancy braid with jewelry intertwined into it. And you could tell that this is someone of extreme importance, of high rank. You also notice quite a few scary weapons on him, and that this is not a guy to just mess with. He seems like he's a bit anxious, not quite sure of himself, but trying not to show it.
Hmm.
All right. The caboose of the Tian Express, mostly reserved for those who find their way aboard this train through illicit means, or those who prefer to keep their trip a little more private from the prying eyes of the public. At the moment, the caboose is only occupied by two other passengers. One sitting across the passenger way from you, and one standing outside over the overlooking balcony watching the railway tracks go by. This figure, sitting a little bit isolated on the outside balcony, watching the distant rails disappear into the distance, is a cloaked figure whose appearance cannot be clearly made out even by a discerning eye. However, our audience has the most discerning eyes of all. Amanda, would you please describe your character?
Okay, so what we have is a um she is a woman in a very beautiful green cloak that is pulled up over her head. If you were to look at her face, she has like high cheekbones and long ears. She has emerald eyes that match her cloak, and she has very long, curly red hair that stands out from her porcelain skin.
All right. Uh, as you stand watching the flatlands and plains of the Tian Valley gradually begin to, uh, what's the word for when an incline going up? I always forget that.
Recede.
No, that's going down.
Well, regardless, it's not super important. It's just the thought occurred to me. As the flatlands begin to gradually mesh into flowing hills, we turn our eyes to the final occupant of the caboose of the Tian Express. Austin, would you please describe your character?
Uh, well, I'm mostly cloaked and trying to keep myself hidden, but I am a cobalt. I'm a red cobalt wearing this sort of like red or black, you know, pretty much this black robe, like just keeping himself hidden. And well, I don't know if you can see it, but does have he does have a more not too big, but a crossbow on his back.
All right. As the Tian Express continues to trundle its way down the railway, you all sit in relative silence. The strange and odd assortment of quiet and isolated passengers in the caboose of the express seem, for the moment, not paying each other too much mind as the train nears its destination. The Tian Express makes its way between four different kingdoms on the western coast of Yav, and at the moment is making its way to the Shadow Lily Confederacy, specifically the city of Perha, which acts as the outermost reach of the largely demi-human undercommon confederacy to the outside world. A little bit of a metaphorical and quite literal wall between the persecuted minorities of the continent and the much more aggressive and numerous humans, elves, and dwarves, and the like. Uh, as the train begins to near its destination, do any of the three of you have anything you'd like to do before the train begins to disembark?
Hmm. So is it just us three on the thing?
In the caboose at the moment, yes.
Hmm.
I think I guess I'll just start using my accent now. I think I will go into the caboose, like as I'm outside. So I'm gonna come inside and like kind of have a seat and pull my cloak a little bit over my head.
All right, so the two of you watch as the other occupant of the caboose finally re-enters and takes a seat a decent distance away, seeming to keeping the attention largely off of them to the best of their ability, as best as you can in a room with 3 people.
Yeah.
Well, Gil is going to basically pat himself down, making sure that everything's still there.
All right.
Make sure he's not missing anything. Like he's going to like check his pockets, make sure that his stuff's still there, because he's second guessing everything.
Understandable.
If I look up and I look at him, does he look familiar to me?
Make a history check.
First roll of the night, you guys.
Hell yeah.
Ooh.
Yell, yeah!
Yeah. Oh.
15.
Hell no.
All right. First DM whispers of the campaign. Give me. You guys can just talk amongst yourselves. I will message you with what that history check was able to net you.
Whispers.
Ooh. Oh boy. She got
All right.
something.
Sorry for the wait. Like I said, whenever there's DM whispers, you guys can just talk amongst yourselves. Just to keep some information private. So.
Can't see anything on her computer.
Try to look at his.
There's very crucial information.
Trying to
on here.
screen peek.
Oh, we're
Like,
right
having
next to
turned
each
a little
other.
bit away from him. Okay. She's not really gonna react. She's just gonna kind of eyeball him and try to keep to herself.
All right. Austin, anything?
Is everything there?
Yes. As far as you can tell, nobody has pickpocketed you.
Yeah.
Well, just to make sure that I didn't forget anything. Not that I was afraid anyone would
does he
pickpocket
seem
me,
nervous?
just that I didn't forget anything.
Yeah, like
I mean-
when I look at him, does he seem nervous?
I'll tell you what, make me a perception check, and Jeremy, make me a deception check. See if you can hide your gradually rising nerves.
Okay.
I got a 16.
I am very nervous. I got a 4.
Yeah, he looks
sweating
really
bullets.
like Austin. Even your character, you can tell he's like he's sweating and like basically giving himself a full airport cavity search. He seems like really on edge.
So Lucien is she's gonna rise up her eyes a little bit and cock an eyebrow, and she's going to say, "Are you having some trouble?"
Yes, my marbles. I've lost my marbles.
Clearly, there's only so much I can do, but is there something I can do for you?
No, I'm good. I found them.
She's just gonna give him a very weird look.
He's gonna actually hold up a little bag. Yeah, she has playing marbles.
She doesn't know how to react to that. She just kind of stares at him like, okay. And then if I look over, do I see the little kobold?
You do see him sitting there, but make me a perception check to see because he seems to be deliberately hiding what he actually looks like.
Perception, you said?
Yes. And if you want to contest that, Austin, it would be a deception check.
Oh, deception.
Natural 1.
Okay.
Although if you have if you're working with an actual disguise kit, you can add your proficiency bonus to that.
Well, she got a natural 1, so I don't think.
It's just like It's like that movie thing. Like it's basically just a cloak, but you can't really like make out the face or anything. You just see like a cloak with like eyes sticking out, basically.
Oh, so it's Aragorn from Lord of the Rings.
She's gonna like tilt her head down to him and say,
Trying to.
"Okay, little one, do you need? Where's your mother and father?"
Oh,
I said mother and father.
I
You
know.
almost said mother and daughter.
Okay.
Well, either way, it's he's just gonna like sit there, sigh, just not even, just kind of just look away from you.
Oh, I get it. Your mother and father told you not to talk to strangers, right?
All right.
Does he even seem like he understands her?
So she's gonna pull down her cloak, which she never does. She's gonna pull down her cloak a little bit, and she's gonna give him like a really pretty smile. She's gonna go, "See, I am a friend." Yeah, that was like very melody-ish. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Well, I'm gonna pull out my dagger and be like, well, you may be a friend, but I am not.
She's gonna sit back in her chair and fold her fingers together, looking amused.
Looking at me.
What do you have there, little one? A knife! No!
And all of a sudden,
It is not nice to threaten.
yeah, I was gonna say, all of a sudden, the knife is going to be out of his hand, and the little guy is going to be dangling by his cloak in the air.
What?
I would like to pick the little guy up by the scruff of his cloak.
Make a grapple. You guys are gonna have to have a grapple contest.
Can I use, what is it? Can I use acrobatics, right?
Yeah, you can use acrobatics or athletics, but he has to use athletics.
Good, because I have a negative
That's
2.
a 25.
Okay.
That's a really good.
Sorry, athletics. Sorry,
Yes.
24.
Well then.
Much more manageable.
Well, unless I get a nat 1 or natural 20, there's no way. Yeah. Nope.
All right, you managed to lift up the small, semi-threatening with a knife figure by the scruff. What would you like?
Well, as I said, I've already taken the knife.
But yeah, you mentioned he's gonna take the knife and then pick me up.
Yeah. So, you really shouldn't pull knives on people. It's not very nice.
Well-
Maybe you should put him down.
He's fine. I'm not hurting him.
Well, maybe you all should mind your own business.
That I will. And she will put her cloak back up.
I'm gonna put the little guy back down, and I'm gonna toss the knife on the chair away from me.
Guess I'll pick up my knife grudgingly.
But no more knife tricks.
Lucina's gonna lean forward to the man in front of her. I guess he's an elf too. Did you say that?
Yeah,
Well, he's out there in the open when you're not wearing anything.
Okay, so she's
I
gonna lean
have
forward and
pants.
she's gonna lean
Debatable.
forward and say, Your Highness. She's gonna say, Your Majesty, you should be more kind to your subjects. And then she's going to lean back.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
She's just gonna give a wry smile. Of course you don't.
And I'm gonna look at the little kobold as if she was talking to him.
Currently, just like doing little mime stabby motions. So we've established the party dynamic. It's mother, father, and knife child.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Well, yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. as the much more stabby, but also much more talkative. Nothing is a conversation starter. Nothing breaks the ice quite like a shiv. You feel the train gradually begin to rumble to a slow grinding halt, and you can hear chatter and the sounds of mechanics up towards the front, bringing the apparatus to a stop, presumably at its designated station. And the door opens to reveal two figures entering in, about as heavily armed as the lot of you, but seeming a bit more uh, professional and used to their equipment, but they also kind of have that air of like, like the type of mercenaries that have been carrying a sword for so long they've really stopped respecting the deadly piece of metal that can kill someone. Two figures enter. One, a tall, lithe, elvish man, and the other, a much more short and stout dwarvish man. The dwarf has a very large, dangerous-looking mace slung over his shoulder, while the elf is carrying a bow. And the elf gives a very half-hearted, just following a script, half bow to the three makeshift kind of rugged looking passengers. The elf has kind of ruffled short blonde hair that looks like he's cut it himself and not doing a super great job at it. He says, "All right, everyone off. Don't leave anything here or it's ours."
Okay. He's just gonna push by him, not aggressively, but he doesn't care.
Everything is yours. She hasn't moved.
Oh.
No, he says if you
Oh.
leave anything.
Oh, don't leave anything? Is that what he said?
Yeah, if you
Yeah, like
leave,
basically don't
if you
if
leave
anything falls out of your pockets and you don't
I
come
thought
back
it was
for
like
it,
a
he's
heist
keeping
or
it.
something. Okay. I was like ready to fight.
Ready to fight. Just ready to go
It's
down.
conditioned you. Anyone who's like kind of a dick to you is probably an enemy.
Yeah.
So she's just gonna quietly stand up and grab her little her bag that just slings over her shoulder onto her hip and leaves without saying anything.
Is this?
Matt,
Set up.
I would like to send you a quick message for my current action.
By all means. In the meantime, Austin, what are you doing?
So I'm gonna get up and kind of walk out, I guess. And how close are they to the door?
They're like standing on either side of it.
Okay, I'm gonna pass by one of them and do slide a hand on him.
I love him already.
Go for it.
Alright.
So that's what I was trying to message you about. I was going as I bumped into one on my way out. I was going to take his purse.
Alright,
But
both of you roll sleight of hand.
Is
We're just gonna-
Lucien like the only one who's not shifty here?
Hey, it's a nice change of
One
pace for
not
you.
shifty?
Says
I know
the
you're
one
saying
who
my for
wanted
one
to
not
fight.
shifty one.
Says the one who
Yeah,
wanted to fight.
you were like, I'm ready to fight.
Message.
Okay. In all fairness, I misheard.
Oof. Oof.
That one.
No. Man, more or less oop for them. I rolled a 17. I have a +7. I think it's 24, right?
God.
I'm at 24.
Yeah. Jesus. All right.
16.
Ah, man, nice, both of you. All right. Still working on memorizing names. Until I get used to character names, I'll refer to you by player. Jeremy, your character gives the classic bump, slip hand into pocket, and then separate and continue walking, pickpocket to the elf. While Austin, your character, being at a much more convenient height for it, does the exact same trick at the exact same time to the dwarf. And both of you, as you're like walking through the passenger car ahead of you, heading towards the front to disembark, just immediately start without looking at each other or actually registering that the other person also pickpocketed. Start searching through what you managed to filch.
does Lucien see this? Just wondering.
Make a perception check.
Okay.
All right, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's
22.
Crime
She got a
Brothers and their
22.
disgruntled sister. What'd you get?
I got a 22.
You do see the other elf steal, but you do not see, like, the kobold seems like he's just kind of caught in between two people and trying to wiggle past them.
Mm.
So what
She's
I
just
get?
gonna make a disgruntled noise.
And from the elf, you managed to acquire 20 gold, and by kind of disguising the hand motion, like you're kind of stretching and, like, moving your hand past the door, you actually managed to filch 3 arrows out of his quiver just to show off.
All right.
And as for our kobold, you also managed to get 20 gold. It appears that's probably what they've been paid to escort this train on its passageway safely. And you also managed to get what appears to be a middling quality, but, like, you imagine it would go for a decent price at a pawn shop, but it's not exactly like a diamond. A small, slightly dirty sapphire.
Ooh, I like it. All right. Well, I pawn that off in my pocket for later.
All right.
And I just drop the arrows. I don't care about them.
Yeah. Just like you proved you could do it.
I take one of the arrows and I use it to pick my teeth.
You're getting very strange looks from Lucien. She thinks that you're crazy.
He is.
All right.
She's going, this is our monarchy. We're screwed.
Word.
About what I expected from the nobles. All right, so leaving the 2 completely unaware adventurers behind you, you just kind of blend in to the ever-increasing line of people in front of you. Hold that thought just for a second, sorry.
Fun.
Anyways, the 3 of you just kind of blend into the crowd of people, not drawing too much attention to yourself. Although, Lucien, you're starting to just kind of keep an eye on the nobleman, making sure he doesn't start just, like, filching old ladies in the crowd.
Absolutely. I'm gonna just, like, follow him and just make sure that he doesn't, like, make a fool of himself. Which is bound to happen, I assume. But I'm going to do it anyway.
So how much am I sticking out in this crowd?
For your equipment, not that much. What mostly makes you stick out here is actually that you and Lucien appear to be pretty much the outside of the other adventurer, some of the only elves in this crowd. Looking around, you see a menagerie of kobolds and tabaxi and lizard folk. Nothing that you would expect to see in the.
What about my height? Does that stand out?
Most of them come pretty far below you, but some of them, like the lizard folk and tabaxi, about meet your height. So you don't stick out like a sore thumb. You just look out like a sunburned thumb.
I was gonna say I'm 6 feet 9 inches. They meet my height.
Well, it's not as enough of a difference.
Curious.
These noises are in and out of character.
And you're, like, a little bit taller than a good chunk of them, but not enough to where it's like a giant among dwarves,
It's not like you can spot you in a crowd like Chewbacca.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to figure out right there.
Yeah, no, you're good. So as you guys gradually disembark, you can finally see the city, your destination, the city of Pirha. While it's not the capital, it is one of the more prosperous border cities of the Shadow Lily Confederacy. In the distance, you can see a single path going underneath a very large gate that seems to be the only way in to a city surrounded on all sides by gigantic stone walls, several stories high. And just that one lonely road with that one lonely gate seems to be the only way in and connects directly to the train station. However, even from this distance through the gate, you can see a bustling city with cobblestone streets and brick housing. That seems a lot more like relaxed and civil than what you'd expect from those fortifications.
Yeah, I was gonna say Gil is actually gonna whistle at seeing these fortifications and look pretty impressed.
Lucien is going to would like to find I'd like to find a like a guard or like somebody who looks like they know the city well.
All right. Real quick, while you're doing that, Gil, actually make me a history check with advantage. And all right, as the crowd starts to work its way down the road, you do see two guards dressed in very colorful silken uniforms, seeming more dress outfits than like true military use. But they seem equipped and with the uniformity you would expect from guards, and you can approach one of them freely.
It was
Gonna
a
go up there,
23.
go up to, hey, you there, come here, in
Uh,
a very authoritative manner. I require your assistance.
You get the attention of a very tall, he seemingly human at a first glance, dark-skinned man. But looking closer, you can see very distinctly feline features: the ears, eyes, and teeth. And he initially just kind of raises an eyebrow at you taking that tone with him, but after you ask him for help, he just kind of glances to the other guard, a lizard folk with a very distinctive, colorful neck frill, and kind of gives him a quick nod before slowly approaching you. What can I help you with?
I'm going to gesture to her family crest that is on her cloak. She's going to say, my name is Lucien Elefikir, and I am here on a mission. I was called here.
He kind of furrows his brow and just says, Queen didn't tell us nothing about a mission.
She's going to raise her eyebrow. Well, I can tell you that I was sent here to look at a warehouse of some sort. That should sound familiar.
He kind of narrows his eyes, and you see that kind of expression of what?
She's gonna narrow her eyes back at him.
Yeah, he has that kind of expression of like a security guard who like that doesn't sound right, but like, do I really want to like waste the manager's time by asking? And he's like kind of weighing his paycheck against like double checking you. Make me a deception check.
I mean, I'm not really telling a lie because like I am showing my family crest.
No, yeah, like it won't be. It's just like to see if that alone will be able to be enough to like get you through the gates in and of itself.
Okay.
And also, Jeremy, I will be DMing Whispering You this time. Just a fun little lore tidbit.
Okay. As I said, it was a 23.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I knew to give it to you.
Okay, I got a 19. First time it was cocked, but I had to re-roll it.
All right, there you go. And you see this like silent war in his head, like my paycheck isn't really enough to like stop a diplomatic missive, and eventually it seems like I don't get paid enough for this wins out in his head, and he gives you a courteous bow before saying, "Yes, of course, my lady, right this way."
Thank you for being very cooperative, and I'm going to reach into my purse and I'm going to give him 2 gold.
He takes the gold gratefully and seems a lot more cheery and upbeat as he kind of gives a wave to the lizard folk on the other side of the gate, who was already opening the gate to allow people through, but now he takes the halberd he's wielding and uses it to kind of part the crowd a little bit, including the kobold and other elf that were with you, kind of moving them to the side of it, allowing you to have a clean, uninterrupted path into the city.
And I'm gonna like scowl at this.
She's just gonna
The
walk
first
like
scowl you're gonna actually see, and it looks murderous.
you know how like fancy people walk when they get like that strut going? That's how she's gonna walk. She's got like a swagger going.
And you guys watch as your other elfish compatriot struts into the city of Perha ahead of you.
Yeah.
You guys can get into the city uninterrupted. They're letting all the people from the train in. But if you want to do anything before going in, now is the time to do it.
No, he's trying not to bring too much attention to himself, but he's still scowling. Like his mood has just dropped. He's not quite as happy as he was early on the train.
Mm. Well, the Cobalt's mate is just mostly gonna focus on finding the storehouse.
All right. So the two of you, along with the crowd, join unofficially, but you're going to the same general vicinity. Your elfish compatriot into the city. As you make your way through the large looming gates, which, as the last of the train's passengers funnel in behind you, slowly is lowered with the large heavyweight chains that allow it to move. And in the distance, you can hear the train starting to start up again, ready to resume its usual route. And you guys take a moment to look around and get a visual on the city you find yourself in. The Shadow Lily Confederacy is known for its collective smorgasbord of higgledy-piggledy cultures that basically anywhere they can't mesh, they coexist. No two, even buildings, look the same. The only thing that seems to unite this collection of different races and species and cultures seems to be that they have access to the same materials, but almost every building seems designed with like different zoning laws in mind. But you see a wide variety of colorful brick buildings overlooking cobblestone streets, various creatures, goblins, kobolds, and other such things are at play in the streets. You appear to find yourself in what appears to be a makeshift shopping district. With various people hurrying to their destinations. The atmosphere in general is very friendly and open, which suits a very open cultured kingdom like the Shadow Lily Confederacy. But all of you have your personal destinations in mind. So, as you take your first steps into this almost Victorian esque city of collective cultures, what would all of you like to do?
Well, first, Gil is actually going to start looking for a blacksmith.
All right. Just so I know what everyone's doing, so that if anyone's going to the same place, we can do it all at once. What are the rest of you two going to do?
I'm going to.
Well, Lucien is mostly business. She's a business person, so I think she's gonna just head towards the storehouse.
Okay.
The store warehouse.
Austin.
Well, Zephyr is sort of impatient, or he just wants to get this done and over with. So he's going to the he's going to the storehouse.
All right. So before we get to that, then we'll do our little side quest of blacksmith. So Gil, the city, despite its like almost blinding rainbow color scheme that makes it very difficult to tell where you are at any given moment. There is a consistent sense of direction, and the people are more than willing to help. So, with a bit of effort, you manage to find your way to a blacksmith. It's fairly typical what you'd expect from a blacksmith. The cobblestone breaking temporarily to allow for a large field of dirt and grass, which appears to be shared between the blacksmith you're currently approaching and across the way a farm currently with various small avian creatures out feeding. But business comes first, and you approach the blacksmith. Appears to be a very large and skinnier than you'd expect orc, currently hammering a molten hot piece of metal. But as he sees you coming, he yeah, puts it to the side a bit, allowing himself to resume the moment the chance presents itself, and approaches you with a very polite and composed, very rehearsed and scripted demeanor. What can I help you with?
Well, I'm looking for a new weapon. Think you might be able
Weapons
to
on
help me out?
weapons I can do, friend. What sort of weapon you looking for?
I'm looking for a great sword.
Great sword for a great warrior. Come in, come in. And he takes a moment to, he kind of looks over the molten thing he was working on, seems to kind of debate with himself, like, is it worth it? Nah. And just kind of offhandedly deposits it into the nearby barrel of water for cooling, seeming like he'll just get back to it later.
Brine.
Huh?
They use brine, not water. Water causes rust.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that actually. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, well, you know what I mean, liquid. um, uh,
Sorry, research.
yeah, that's fine. Like you're not being a dick about it. I just genuinely didn't know that. Um, uh, and escorts you inside. And on the inside, you can see a very lovingly kept collection of various weapons and armors, some of which are very exotic, which you think is like kind of notable, but then you immediately are like, oh yeah, you remember where you are, so it's kind of expected. Uh, and he smiles and says, so, you just looking for the standard, or would you like anything special about it? I know the lizard folk love their curved swords.
Mm, just maybe a little decorative, but functional.
A little decorative but functional. Let me see what I got here. Uh, and he takes a moment to kind of filter through his various things. Um, Before eventually he puts a more akin to a katana than an actual greatsword, but it still seems to be more or less what you were looking for in two-handed sword. And said, "This about suit your needs, or are you looking for something more stabby?"
More hackish.
Hackish. You sure you're not looking for an axe, friend?
No, I got one of those. And he pats his back.
And he kind of thinks to himself after digging a bit. It seems like, ironically, typical for what your people are used to. Sword is actually hard for him to find, but eventually manages to pull a large ebony black. Seemingly of elvish design, great sword from deep in the back of the weapons rack, and presents it to you. Oh, this do the job?
Ah, nice. This is perfect.
He gives a large orc tusk smile. That'll be 50 for the whole thing.
Ah, done. And he'll actually throw in 5 extra gold.
Uh, he looks down at the tip with a smile, and as he kind of gently pockets it into his cloak, he gives a nod. Feel free to come back anytime, friend.
Of course.
All right. As you exit the blacksmith, is there anything else you'd like to do? You now have a great sword. No particularly special properties, but again, it is ebony black with a seemingly elvish design to it.
No, he's good. He's going to head towards his destination.
All right. So, uh, with you two having entered the city at different times, you do know the vicinity of what you're looking for. Your contacts having given you enough landmarks to have the general idea. Lucien, having gotten in ahead of everyone else, you arrive first. After a bit of searching, you manage to find the location of the barracks, and from there, it is not difficult to find the storehouse you were searching for. Uh, but whatever your contact has promised to keep attention off you has clearly not happened yet. As you can see, a few people, mostly guards, this close to the barracks, going up and down. They don't pay you too much mind, but it's clear like you're not going to get away with a whole lot with a patrol passing every like 2 minutes. Um, but you find yourself in front of a large, seemingly underused storehouse. It seems like the ones closer to the barracks have seen a bit more use. So you take a moment to just sit and wait, see if anything happens, and just kind of case the place. Zephyr, coming in a little bit behind, having not gotten the same head start as your elvish friend, you similar find your way to your destination, but find Lucien standing casually across the way, having gotten there ahead of you. Austin?
Yeah, I was thinking.
Yeah, just making sure. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. He sort of, I guess, he sees her and just thinks, kind of just randomly thinks like, oh, it's her again. And
What a great start for this party.
you know, and he's going to, I guess, he's gonna like what? So she's like, is she across the storehouse, right?
Yeah, just kind of doesn't seem overly suspicious. Like again, in a city like this, nobody really stands out. But and plus, there's patrols of guards. It's one of those things of like, there's so many guards here, and nobody thinks like, is one person really gonna try something? So she's just standing across from it, kind of almost casing it. But
she's also silently judging everybody.
So yeah, she just seems to be, but yeah, she is directly across from it, and just kind of combination of people watching and observing.
Well, I guess I'm gonna go to my destination. Just not happy that she's there, but just accept it.
All right. Are you going to do the same and wait, or are you going to go a bit ahead of what your contact had suggested?
Well, I'm gonna see like if he like see if I can find any clues that where I should be. Maybe I don't know. Just more or less scope out the place.
Make me an investigation check.
That would be not a natural, but 20.
All right. And do you want to be sneaky about this, or do you not particularly care?
I guess I'll try to be sneaky.
All right. Make me a stealth check.
I'm good. That'd be 17.
All right. I'm going to take a wild guess, Lucien, and say your passive perception doesn't beat that.
What is the number?
17.
Yeah, my passive is 16. So
Okay.
Just barely, yeah.
So, with your training and skills, you managed to slip under the gaze of both your elfish compatriot and the guards patrolling, and managed to kind of get a good look around of this largely underused warehouse. As you look it over, you start to kind of put a few things together pretty quickly. One, it seems like it's not abandoned. You can clearly see there is things inside. However, judging from the dark and the visible even from the windows cobwebs, it appears that it was filled, but then other places became more convenient and those started to get used instead. So there appears to be things inside and just they haven't been accessed in a while. However, what catches your attention more is that despite it getting fairly close to the expected meeting point, you do not see any sign of activity from within, period. Uh, and uh, and from just catching little snippets of passing guard patrols, you're not getting any immediate wind of any sort of distraction either.
Hmm.
Gil, after making your pit stop at the blacksmith, you, similar to the first two, managed to find your way to your destination with minimal trouble. And as you arrive, just kind of making your way past a guard patrol who, again, don't pay you too much mind other than a little nod of, yeah, we're guards, we're patrolling, don't do anything funny. You arrive at the street that the warehouses, specifically the one you're looking for, overlook, and find Lucien already waiting there.
Okay, so he doesn't really care. He finds it a little funny that once again she's there, but he's gonna actually walk up to the storehouse and he's gonna peek in the window, looking to see if his person it's meeting is there.
Make me a perception check. And while you're doing that, Zephyr, you
Yeah.
see Gil arrive. He does not appear to have noticed you, and you can see him looking in one of the windows you were just looking in a moment ago. Do you want to make your presence known, or do you wish to continue observing?
Well, from what I was told, he's not who I am. He's not who I am looking for, so I will be stealthy.
All right.
I got a 15.
Looking inside. Huh?
I rolled a stealth and I got a 20. Not natural, but
Yeah, so
20.
yeah, you're still well. Your previous check would have still applied. Thank you
Oh.
anyway. Yeah, because they didn't have to make because they weren't looking for you specifically, so it was just passive perception. But again, thank you anyway, and you still would have passed either way. Um, Looking inside, similar to Zephyr, you do not see any signs of activity. However, on giving a more kind of deep cursory glance, you do see some very isolated and small movement inside. Nothing that would immediately catch the eye of an observer, but since you're specifically looking for any signs of your contact's presence, you do see movement from inside, but it's nothing that immediately screams like a person. It seems very erratic and spontaneous, something probably akin to an animal like a raccoon or something.
He's gonna smile and he's gonna go in.
Alright.
Lucina's just gonna look at him going in and just go.
All right. Do you want to try and do this under the nose of the guards?
She's going to pull her cloak up over her head.
He's gonna look so natural doing this.
He's not trying. Not trying.
Okay, I'll tell you what. If you want to Bavarian fire drill this, make me a deception check.
13.
Zephyr, from your position of stealth, and Lucien from your just kind of casual observation position, kind of almost receding into the shadows as you pull your cloak up. You watch as the typical passing patrol sees Gil approaching the warehouse. And one of the figures, a mostly human, very tall, skinny man, but with very noticeable reptilian scaling and eyes, holds up a hand. Excuse me, sir. That's not public property. Move along, please.
I'm allowed in here.
He kind of looks you over and says, I do not see a military uniform. That is a military storehouse.
He brings out a scroll and passes it to him.
All right. What does the scroll contain?
My rank and title.
Oh,
Make me an intimidation check with advantage.
oh boy.
Did he get advantage, you said?
Yeah, he has
Yes.
advantage.
So yeah, he's doing fine.
That's still really bad.
11.
He looks over the scroll and kind of raises an eyebrow and passes it back to you. I'm sure that would have been very impressive in your homeland, sire, but as this is not your military storehouse, as I said, move along.
Lucien is going to have a smirk on her face, and casually, gracefully walk up to next to him.
Can we help you?
Guarded eyes. Hello, my name is Lucien Elafiker. I am here from the assembly. Or what was it called? Hold on, I can't. I have to look at my notes. Hold on.
Fine.
Yeah, yeah. With a setting
forgot
like
what they
this,
were
it's a lot of
called
notes.
already.
Don't feel bad.
I already forgot what they were called.
Are you looking for?
I was going to say,
Are you,
at this
The
point, there's something I actually want to do.
Yeah, the Confederacy. They
uh,
they contacted my people, as you are very aware of who my people are.
Mm.
They contacted me to come to do an
Uh-oh.
investigation.
make me a deception check.
Okay.
And Gil, if you go along with it, you can give her advantage.
He's just
Oh
like,
no, during this, he's using this as a distraction, and he's just gonna turn and walk off.
she tries to come and save you. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna
He's
leave.
gonna circle around the building.
He's just gonna abandon you.
Excuse me, sir. We're not finished yet.
Oh.
22.
Yeah, you told me to go on.
Yes, back to the public sector, if you please. And as he turns to you, Lucien, he kind of looks you up and down, and you can see his hand kind of stretching and cracking. Like, again, similar to the first guard, he's trying to determine if this was really worth his pay grade. He seems a bit more professional than your generic gate guard.
She's gonna purse her lips and give him a "Do you dare defy me?" look.
Am I just listening to all this?
Yes, you see all this, but nobody has noticed you yet. He kind of looks you over, looks to Gil, and then finally creases his brow with a sigh. Very well, this warehouse and no other. Do not make trouble. And he kind of leans forward and seems very smarmy, despite being several ranks of class below you, and says, and I will be sure that the chain of command report of this reaches the Queen's very perceptive ears.
That is fine. Whatever you think is necessary. Come along, Your Grace. Let's go see if we can't investigate this and be on our way.
The reptilian guard kind of gives a huff and gestures with his head for his patrol to follow him as they continue on their designated path. You now have free access to the warehouse.
I had that under control.
You're welcome. And she's gonna just turn
Thank
away
you.
from him and walk away.
No, he's just gonna go inside.
All right, Lucien, will you follow?
Yeah, I mean, she was inside, but she was gonna go inside and just walk away from him and
Okay.
try to see, look around and see what kind of conclusion she can come to.
Okay. Zephyr, you see them kind of scare the guards off and head inside the warehouse. What would you like to do?
I would like to hide.
Inside or stay where you are?
Uh,
So much.
I mean, inside. Like, I'm gonna stay
All
in.
right. Make me another stealth check
Uh,
because now you're following them and going into a different place. So,
that would be a 19.
all right. Since 17 did fine, I imagine 19 is only better. So as the very large doors closing behind them, manage to slip through and take cover behind a box as the two of them proceed forward. The three of you find yourselves in a pitch black warehouse. The only light from the sun coming in through cracks in the roof and walls of this neglected and underused storage facility. Various crates are all around you, and as you can see through a few of them that have either been left open or just kind of half open, you can see it's just a variety, mostly of crossbows, swords, and just various weaponry uh, seeming to fit the description you were given of a military storehouse, most likely just upgraded to new facilities, and these ones were left for either emergency use or just forgotten. However, what catches your attention more immediately is while it seems to be just the 2/3 of you, depending on your perspective, in this warehouse, your attentions are all grabbed by a very low guttural sound from across the warehouse. Does not seem to be moving any closer to you, but it is very distracting as the only noise in this otherwise silent, oppressive darkness.
I was gonna say, having dark vision, would I be able to see it?
We all have dark.
Yeah, does everyone? So everyone
Yeah.
has dark vision.
Yeah, I have dark
Yeah, I
vision.
was
And
actually going to touch my cloak and cast light on it since it is a cantrip.
All
So
right.
now I'm glowing.
All right. And light does light work for everyone? Just to double check. I believe it does. Okay, I thought so. Just want to make sure. So as Lucien sets their cloak alight, and all of you peer around via your dark vision, you almost don't notice it amidst the crates and various just dark corners of this large building. But in the center of the warehouse, propped up against a particularly large container, you see a small hunched figure producing that gargled choking sound from earlier, and it just kind of wriggles and occasionally
Excuse me, are you
twitches and
okay?
moves.
Excuse me, you sound like you're choking. Are you okay?
Yeah,
As a
Gil's gonna
cleric,
run.
I'm very
Gil's
concerned.
actually gonna run over there and pull his emergency supply health potion out and give it to him because he knows
oh,
exactly what this is.
oh.
All right.
Having having served in the military for a while, he knows exactly what this is, and that he knows this guy is near death.
As the two of you approach Zephyr, are you just staying in cover and keeping an eye?
Me. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna make sure I get like make sure I stay close, but keep my distance, but make sure I can
All right.
see and hear what's going on.
Okay. As you slink your way closer, you take cover behind a nearby box of swords, and as Lucien and Gil approach the hunched figure, as you're bending down to apply the health potion, Gil, Lucien's cloak throws the figure into light, and you see what may have once been a goblin is no longer. What you see is a bubbling ooze like mass of black ichor that looks up at you with eyes that seem to be constantly fluctuating and bubbling between the bloodshot yellow of a dying goblin and the glowing, oppressive red of a demon. And as this bubbling, choking creature is approached, as you place your hands on it, it immediately lets out a guttural and reaches back with a claw to strike at you.
you poor thing. We've got to put it out of its misery. I'm going to cast Sacred Flame on it.
Wait, I need information.
It needs to die. We can collect information after it's dead. It can't talk. What kind of information are you gonna get from choking and gagging? Nothing. We can maybe
I was like,
we
what
can maybe
information?
kill it and then take whatever is left and take that for information.
I mean, we could do
So
that.
Gil, I was gonna say, Gil is gonna look at the goblin, pull out his knife, and say, "Blink once for mercy, twice for not."
Hmm.
He wanted to do Sacred Flame.
Hey, the opportunity is not passed just yet. As the goblin goes to finish its strike from earlier, you almost casually parry it out of the way. More the actions of a defensive animal than a trained fighter. But as you ask that question, its eyes continue that fluctuation. You almost get the impression it's not even capable of blinking. And it stares up at you for a moment, and its form starts to almost gradually solidify. The drooping pitch black ooze begins to slowly solidify into an almost clay like texture. And you notice near its hand, its fingers begin to meld together and form the fine point of a dagger. I would like everyone to please roll for initiative.
All right.
Saw that coming.
I can never tell if it's a 6 or a 9. How do you tell?
Usually a line or a
Nice.
dot next to it.
But is the line under it or over?
Usually under it. It's under it. Usually lines under it and dots to the right of
Like
it.
the circle part or the hooky part?
What?
Like,
This-
okay, if the line is under the circle part,
It
is that
should be
6?
the
Then
line.
it's 6.
The line should be at the bottom, wherever it is.
I never know if it's a 6 or a 9.
I'm
This is
coming.
terrible.
Okay, it's anyway. I got 11. I think.
All right. Gil already got
I think
yours.
I got.
If it's a dot, it should be on the right side.
Well, regardless of whether it's a 6 or 9, you're in the position. The initiative won't actually change. So,
I think it's 10.
all right.
It's a 6. It's
Well,
10.
man.
I'm gonna have Jeremy look at it.
That was a 9. What with the 10?
I don't know the difference, okay?
I know what you mean. Like if you basically hold up the thing and it should be at the very bottom, whatever that is. You're talking about a line.
All right. All right. The initiative has been decided. Gil, you're up first. This creature that was once a goblin definitely seems to be on the attack and incapable of reason if it was willing to in the first place. What would you like to do? You are at point blank with it.
So I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to throw this thing as far away from us as I can.
Make a strength check.
Fucking eat it.
Depending on how not he does it, you could have just destroyed me.
Oh no! Those are kobold.
Well, I don't know it's there. So.
But yeah, as I was saying, I mean, it's not his fault. He doesn't know I'm there, so it just yeets it towards me. I'm like, oh well, that's there.
Yeah, just well. So if you didn't hear me, make a strength check.
Yeah.
So that is an 18.
All right. Since you already had your hands on it, with a mighty heave, you managed to shove it 10 feet away from you. It's kind of uses the knife extension on its hand to slow its distancing before standing to its full, not super intimidating because it's a goblin, but still notable height. And its other arm begins to extend to a very fine point akin to a rapier.
And I would like to then pull out my great sword and prepare for attack.
All right.
Like just
Uh,
going on defense.
mhm. All right. Zephyr, you're up. You see this whole thing playing out, but none of the combatants appear to have noticed your presence.
Yeah. Hmm. Try to think here. Want to introduce myself or just let y'all handle it? How far away is he from me?
From you, he is 20 feet.
Just enough to use a dagger. Uh, I guess I'll try to be sneaky about it, but I'll try to throw a dagger behind him doing a sneak attack. And
Please don't hit me,
yeah, I'll try to
or
attack him.
you're gonna get yeeted next.
All
So
right.
I'm planning on it.
And go ahead and make that attack roll, my man.
Yeah, and then afterwards I'm gonna try to hide, but first attack.
Yeah. All right.
Oof. Oof. Oof.
That didn't sound good.
Well, luckily it's with advantage, right? Since it's stealth attack, right?
No, that's not how that works.
Yeah, no. If you're thinking of the rogue sneak attack thing, it's if you get advantage on an attack, you get sneak attack, but it doesn't give you advantage to attack from stealth. At least not to my knowledge.
No, sneak attack just gives extra damage.
Yeah, I
Well, I'm not
So-
damaging him because of the net one.
Um.
And I'm going to hide.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so go ahead and make me a stealth check for your high, so we can just have your whole turn play out.
Slightly better. 11.
Well, I see you now.
I see.
Yeah. You
I
emerge.
definitely see you.
Yeah, so you emerge from your hiding place and rear back to throw your dagger. But as you're emerging, you kind of accidentally put a little too much weight because you're kind of using it as leverage on the crate of swords. So as you step out from the shadows with dagger in hand, there's just that of a crate being shoved and the clatter of all the swords inside, and
Yeah.
attention is immediately drawn to you as your knife just kind of goes sailing over the head of the uh, creature that used to be a goblin. And everyone just kind of stares at you for a second before returning to fighting.
Alright.
Sorry, man, that one.
Yeah, no.
Was judging you.
No, it happens.
Speaking of which, Lucien, you're up.
Okay, she is going to cast Sacred Flame. So the monster needs to do a dexterity save throw, please.
Gotcha. What am I trying to beat?
14.
I don't even need to add modifiers. That's not going to cut it. Roll for damage.
That's 6 radiant damage.
Nice. So as you release this flame of sacredness, you strike dead center of the creature that used to be a goblin's mass, and you watch as the clay-like black substance melts away into the inky ichor before immediately re-solidifying, but you can still see noticeable scorch marks on it.
Okay. She's just going to frown at that.
The creature enters a combat position and charges Gil with its rapier arm. What's your armor class?
19.
19.
All right. With you on the defensive, as it charges you, you immediately bring your sword into a defensive position. And in the nick of time, as the blade comes within, as I like to say, a gnat's dick of your heart, just barely parrying the inky blade out of the way. But in one smooth motion, the creature huddles to the ground. And you notice its form start to kind of flicker as if it's going to fade from sight. But as it does, you can see the burn marks where the sacred flame had struck burst, and this splatter of ink goes on the floor, and the creature lets out a startled and pain, and like bends over, distracted by its freshly reopened wound. Gil, you are up again. The creature is point blank from you and distracted by the twice over injury Lucien had bestowed upon it.
So my guy is actually going to like he's actually it looks like when you look at him, he's basically going to straighten up and his whole body is just going to tense and he's going to rage
Already.
and
Hell yeah.
he's going to take his great sword and he's going to do a double-handed strike trying to cleave this thing in two.
Go for it. Make a roll.
Great.
24 to hit. No, 26.
Good lord. Yeah, that's a hit. Roll for damage.
Wait. Wouldn't that be a natural 20?
No,
No,
it's a natural,
huh?
no, it's a natural 17. I'm watching a roll.
Yeah, so it's just
14
modifiers.
damage.
Can I take it?
14, you said?
Yes.
Well, he
Good
gets
lord.
a bonus damage dice. Or gets more
I believe
damage.
so.
Yep, plus 2.
As the creature looks up at you with its distant animalistic eyes, you bring your broadsword cleanly down on it and separate the clay-like ink body. And as it just bisects at the spine, it lets out a final gurgling whine before its body gradually melts into two separate puddles of ink and ichor.
Well, that's taken care of. We're done here.
Lucien is immediately going to go to one of the puddles. Does this, from her background, from what she knows, does this seem familiar?
Make me a history check.
Mm.
Also, while she's doing that, Zephyr, just in case, just so you don't forget, you can retrieve your dagger now if you wish.
Yeah, but I might have another plan.
21?
One more time.
21.
21.
This is nothing you've ever heard of. There is magic that can corrupt something or bring a dead thing back to life as a
So
monster.
it's not like
but-
it's not necromantic because I kind of with Lucien Senior, I would have I assume some sort of knowledge in the necromancy.
No, yeah, like with not only is this nothing you recognize, it's like from necromancy, it's nothing you even recognize as being magical. Like while it is clearly unnatural in some way, this doesn't even leap out to you as something that would come up in any arcane studies. It's unnatural by unnatural standards, and just like being near it kind of makes you spine tinglingly uncomfortable.
Yeah, it makes her very uncomfortable. You know, she she holds her holy symbol of life and nature, and she mutters in Elvish. I'm assuming Jeremy could probably understand me, so I'm just gonna tell
Yeah,
him.
I can understand.
I'll
Yeah,
just tell
like-
him without that, but I'll tell him, but she mutters something in Elvish.
All right. As all of you recover yourselves, your thrown weaponry, and your personal senses of what is good in this world and what makes sense, as your understanding of the arcane and your faiths are turned upside down, you all take a moment to look at each other and register, that was some pretty fucked up shit that just happened. And on that
And to
note,
make-
that is
I
the
was gonna say,
end
to
of
make-
the first session.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's it?
She's so upset.
No! I need more.
Gotta end it on a cliffhanger, man. I could have ended it before you fought the thing, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I had other things I wanted to do.
Yeah. Don't worry, I have a plan as well.
I bought him a shirt like that for Christmas. It says, "Don't worry, I have a plan." It has a natural 1 on it. Great.
Yeah.
So that is where we're going to end things off for tonight. Future sessions will likely be longer, but this one was just kind of getting a feel for things, introducing characters, testing the waters, that sort of thing. I'm glad you guys seem to have had fun, though. We will, if you guys are cool with it, pick this up next week.
I was gonna say, can we play
Tomorrow.
tomorrow?
Tomorrow. We're in quarantine.
I'm sorry.
We need it.
We need it. Our precious.
I'm sorry. I have another stream D&D campaign I need to prepare for.
Priorities. We're more important.
Oh my god.
I'm glad you guys had fun. Yeah, you can use that time to work more on your characters. So, thanks all of you for watching. Hopefully, we'll talk it over and probably try to get this up on YouTube. We will see you guys next week. And real quick, because I've always wanted to say this, is it Tuesday yet? Winks at camera. See you guys next week. Thank you for watching.